You only get to do this, rebrand one of Germany's biggest brands once in a lifetime.
I'm actually wearing something that I bought from Kleinanzeigen today.
This is, to be honest, exactly my job. So making the really trading secondhand cooler than e-commerce.
When the journey is not comfortable, I don't want to spend time there, you know?
We put 164 million pages on the market.
Imagine a job where CO2 is more important than the CEO.
No one had done this before, and not even Google knew what would happen.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the EGN Podcast. I'm your host, Efe von Thenen. I'm delighted to take a deeper dive in what has become one of Germany's strongest websites with over 36 million active users every month. So let's find out more about Kleinanzeigen, take a look at their evolution, and find out about their rebranding journey. Allow me to introduce Iskra Velichkova, Head of Brand at Kleinanzeigen. Hi Iskra, welcome to the show. Very nice to have you here. You know, one of the things that I really look at, if someone is really living and breathing what they're talking about, since you're from Kleinanzeigen, we will get to that, you are really pushing this topic of sustainability. So today I was taking a look at how you're going to come in here, and as soon as I saw your helmet, I was like, that's a great sign. Really nice to have you here today. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. So I'm Iskra from Kleinanzeigen, and at Kleinanzeigen for about almost 8 years now. I've been responsible for everything brand related, so all upper funnel marketing activities, including our ATL campaigns, but also social media, content marketing, and so forth. And plus we have a very cross-functional setup at Kleinanzeigen. So currently, together with a colleague of mine, we are responsible for actually taking care of our C2C business. C2C means consumer to consumer, so that's basically about the core of Kleinanzeigen and what we are doing. And before I joined Kleinanzeigen, I was actually working on creative agency side, so basically working at the major networks such as Ogilvy and DDB, and there working on accounts, on bigger international accounts such as Coca-Cola, Volkswagen, Bosch, and so forth. And I always had this, at some point in time, I had this bit of conflict that, for example, I was working for Coca-Cola, but I wasn't really a customer of Coca-Cola anymore. And that was the time that that Kleinanzeigen called me up. And I was a young mom at that point in time, and if you're a young mom, you turn into a heavy user of Kleinanzeigen. So that was the perfect match, perfect fit, and I was immediately interested in and joined the company. So yeah, that's the story.
I love that because even before this episode, not that I had pages and pages and pages of prep material from our team, but I'll also ask my wife because she's we have 2 kids, and throughout the years she was the one that had the mental load of buying each time these clothes, mostly secondhand. Also, we love secondhand, because it's sustainable, cheaper. You know, I don't need to tell you what the USPs of secondhand purchasing is. But I asked her also, yeah, what's your perspective as a customer, you know? So I will be challenging you on a couple of things. Yeah, it's super interesting. Also, the fact that one thing that I found very interesting is that really consuming the product you're selling, you know, being part of the whole ecosystem. It's like working at McDonald's and being a vegan. And nowadays they have vegan stuff, but you know, I think that's super important as well to really radiate this feeling outside, and that's important in branding.
Yeah, and you know what, actually, it's not only me at the company, but especially when I joined back then. So we were, let's say, 60, 70 people in 2016. So a really small company, actually. But you had the feeling that basically everyone is there because they believe in this product and because they believe of the necessity of advancing second-hand trade and the circular economy. So that's, I think, something very important, and so also something very powerful for the growth of a company.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what Kleinanzeigen is.
Yeah, so Kleinanzeigen is actually one of the biggest marketplaces in Germany in total. And it obviously is the market leader in classifieds. So basically, our main preoccupation is actually to connect people to trade with each other. So basically giving used goods a second chance or a third chance, and prolonging really the lifetime that a product is staying in use. And thereby obviously doing a lot about a big contribution to the environment, saving resources, but also to simply the wallets of people. So you can make money on Kleinanzeigen, but you can also save money buying something that you cannot afford. Also, since we have an amazing reach of the platform and a super huge inventory, I can say that basically on Kleinanzeigen you can literally find anything you're searching for. So from the needle to the airplane, everything is there. I specifically actually looked whether we have airplanes currently, and there are some. So if you're interested, there's a Cessna in Esslingen waiting for you. So yeah, so you can find basically anything. So that's about the private inventory. But we also have offers for small and medium businesses to join the platform. We especially have a look into complementing what is there in the second-hand space and what makes sense for people to find on a platform for Kleinanzeigen. So basically, we have a look in that. We have a healthy mix of inventory that actually makes sense to end users.
And it's super powerful brand as well. Yeah, I think our viewers and listeners, I think almost everyone knows about Kleinanzeigen. Can you give us some more maybe percentages of your brand awareness, or how many people you have monthly? That would be quite interesting as well.
Yeah, so it's actually one of the biggest destinations in Germany online. So we have more than 36 million people on the platform in a given month. So that's basically equal to every second German onliner visits our platform once a month, which is at least once a month, which is great. We have an amazing brand awareness. So our former name, eBay Kleinanzeigen, it was known basically more than 90% of more than 90% of Germans, and we have almost caught up with the popularity of this, 14-year-old brand. With our current Kleinanzeigen 9-month-old baby, we almost caught up with this powerful achievement. So we're very happy about this. Yeah, and what else? We are one of the top 10 sites in visibility in Germany, and we're talking about being in one group with sites like Wikipedia, like the social media sites. So there's only 3 e-commerce sites in the top 10, and we are one of them. So that's about kind of the league that we're playing in.
Iskra, when you were talking about, you mentioned you're a mother, but for most business people, their product could also be like a baby. You mentioned you have a 9-month-old baby, the Kleinanzeigen brand, and as you were saying that, your eyes were like shining. It's just this is super nice to see that you're exactly where you want to be. I think I have the feeling. I also, looking through the brand and some research, I also bumped into the potential per household, how much money people could make with Kleinanzeigen. Can you tell us a little bit about that, if you have some numbers or some insights?
Yeah, so we do the study actually almost every, no, not almost, we do the study every year to really check on what's the potential for people to actually make money with what they have and actually insert their inventory that lies deeply hidden in their cellar into the circular economy space. And it's different per year, but it's more than the average German household has on average more than 2,000 euro just lying around in your house. So basically the potential is super big. And to be honest, we saw that an extreme acceleration during COVID times, because all of a sudden everyone was locked in their apartment, and
they're looking around like, what could I sell?
Yes, exactly. They actually had a look in what's there, and basically there was a lot of a very steep inventory increase during that time, and we actually thought, okay, are we borrowing too much from the future? Where is this going to go? But to our very high content, people actually stayed in the loop. So basically, we did not see a deceleration, or we saw a deceleration but not a decline. So basically, we have grown ever since. So that's a very good development. People maybe got into the habit.
Yeah,
more.
It's a nice push that you got, and which is still going on. Iskra, I'm actually wearing something that I bought from Kleinanzeigen today. So I'll give you the chance to guess what that is. I'm outing myself that I'm also a user. You probably can guess.
You can have your complete...
My underwear, no.
You can have this complete outfit on Kleinanzeigen, that's no problem, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately not the complete outfit, but my watch I bought actually secondhand.
Great.
So what I did was I had a keyword that I was tracking for the best price, and then I got a pop-up alert. Yeah, there's someone really close, so I didn't really have to go the extra mile. I love the local aspect about Kleinanzeigen, you know, because I'm kind of lazy to go to the other side of the city or wait for a package for a long time. So I meet this guy, and he's like, yeah, we talked about his watch, and he gave it to me. I paid him in cash, which I will get to in a second. And then he called me a couple days later. He's like, you want to have a beer? I'm like, sure. It's also, I think some people see this even as a platform where I can make new connections. I don't know. Do you have some stories like that? I'd be super curious. Or am I weird for having such an encounter?
No. This is so typical. So we have so many stories like that. And we get even mails from people telling us these stories. So I can tell you, there is the Kleinanzeigen baby, for example, that people met over the
They went a couple steps further. Yeah,
they met over a cupboard, and then they fell in love, they married, and they have kids now, which is a wonderful story. But you know, this is the magic of Recommerce, or the magic of Kleinanzeigen, really.
So you'll be maybe the next big dating platform soon. No, I'm kidding.
Are already a dating platform. No, but that's we are all about connecting people, offline or online. And if you think of it, basically, there are a lot of people selling, I don't know, Fender guitars. Yeah. So if you're selling a Fender guitar, you're obviously a music fan, and maybe you know quite a lot about this guitar. So basically, if someone comes to you at your doorstep, wants to buy it, he's also interested in the same topic. Yeah. So basically, you end up
like a community,
having a jam session in your apartment, making a friend, finding someone who is like-minded and shares the same interests. So there are lots of stories about that, and it's really, Kleinanzeigen is delivering on this fabric, and this very romantic fabric that actually life is made of.
Yeah, it's super nice. And I want to go back to my example as I bought my watch. And as I said, I paid in cash. The deal was done. I was super happy. But I asked myself, back then eBay Kleinanzeigen, how does this company make its money? Obviously advertisement, but you mentioned 36 million users. Users like me trade with each other using cash or PayPal separately, apart from the platform. I know that there are ways that you could do it through the platform. One time I saw a TikTok, it was so funny. There's this guy, there's a TikTok video, short video. There's this guy waiting in a dodgy parking lot, and then he says like, only because my wife wants to make €5, I'm about to get killed.
All right.
You know what I mean? So, how do you make your money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there we have quite different revenue streams, and yes, advertising is obviously one of them. And this we are actually advancing more and more. So now basically we have quite a lot of retail media offers to really be very specific for people who are actually in market and get your ad really delivered at the right moment in the right space. But we also have, for example, people who trade on the platform. You can insert your ad and you can boost your ad. You can buy certain features that make it more visible. And then another revenue stream is really connected to professional users. So having subscription models for small and medium businesses who can join our platform and immediately get basically this huge reach, this huge SEO power, and this huge audience. Without actually having to build their own internet presence and having to go through the effort of marketing it and going through the effort of actually getting to know the skills.
Kind of a shortcut
exactly.
Directly to other customers.
Yeah, it's just a plug-and-play solutions for small and medium businesses. And then we have indeed payments and buyer protection for exactly these cases. If you don't want to go to the parking lot, you can actually use our transaction system and have your buyer protection. Yeah.
Could you tell us maybe like what's the percentage of people that use the buying protection and how many still stick with cash because they might think, hey, I'm not paying for, again, example from my wife, as our baby boy is super small still, she was looking for a Trage in German. I don't even know what the term is, like baby carrier thing. So she found something and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna save some money on this commission. So she did like PayPal, I guess, with like without protection, you know, like she just transferred the money. And I think she lost like €350 because the person never showed up. And so this can also happen because you have the feeling, oh, they seem trustworthy, but they're maybe not at the end.
Yeah, so these are exactly the cases that we are trying to help users with, you know, so basically developing the payment system and the buyer protection system was exactly about answering a user need, right? Because we saw, yes, our platform is about connecting people maybe in the offline world, but a lot of people are shipping and actually do this long distance trading. And then a lot of like the usual behavior used to be really go out of the platform, use PayPal, family and friends, maybe other payment methods, and then your transaction was unprotected. So this is what we wanted to aid in user behavior, to really keep this transaction on the platform and have an escrow flow, and really then release the money only after everything, like the buyer has said that everything is okay. Yeah.
Keep it in the pool until
exactly.
then. What are you mentioned you're one of the biggest e-com platforms out there in Germany. What are your competitors?
There's more and more actually competition that's running into Recommerce because it's a very highly developing space. So up until 2025, the end of 2025, Recommerce is expected to grow 2.5 times faster than e-commerce in Europe. So basically you can imagine that this is a very attractive space. So there are more and more new companies coming on the market. So Vinted is obviously a player that's not as new, but compared to us. And also e-commerce companies are discovering that they can go in such a direction and stepping in these spaces.
As an addition.
As an addition,
yeah.
Exactly. So these are the developments that are taking place right now. And that's actually, yeah, on one hand side, yes, we have more competition. On the other hand side, I can tell you that this is advancing the whole category, right? So basically, our ultimate goal is really to make more people or inspire more people to join Recommerce, and this can only happen if we make it as attractive as e-commerce, so as lean, as fast, as convenient.
Yeah.
And in these terms, actually, competition is quite good because it makes us also develop faster.
Definitely.
And that's good for everyone.
I want to get to how you make that happen as a brand, but before I want to reiterate the point that you mentioned, that this market has huge potential. We are seeing that too. As a matter of fact, we had the e-commerce Berlin Expo in February recently, and I did the opening keynote. And before this keynote, in preparation, I was talking to the German managing director of the German Retail Association. And what he told me was that 44% of Germans are willing to buy secondhand products. And something that I found very, very interesting was that 1/3 of consumers between the ages 25 to 44 are buying secondhand products and giving them to third persons as presents. And 50% within this age group want to do it this year. You know, so for me, it's like definitely a ramp up in terms of and it's no longer like something that you're unsure about or maybe ashamed. It's like, yeah, you're proud of buying something secondhand, just like I'm proud of my watch because I have a lower CO2 equivalent footprint.
Yeah, this is, to be honest, exactly my job. So making the really trading secondhand cooler than e-commerce. And that's,
I like it.
So this is basically the vision that we are pursuing, right? For it to become actually the default behavior. So whenever in the future you need something, Recommerce to be your first choice. Like you come to Kleinanzeigen and you have a look, can I find it there? And if you cannot find it from a private person, then we actually have an SMB offering for you. Maybe buy it secondhand from an SMB, or maybe buy it new from an SMB. And if you don't find it there, we are showing to you actually in your feed of search results. You can find actually new offers as well that will link you out of the platform, and you can immediately see the price comparison, right? Because you have it in your feed, and then you can actually, as a user, determine: do I want to buy it secondhand? Do I want to buy it new? And we are not, fundamentalists, so buying it new obviously needs also to be there in a certain form, because basically only buying secondhand is then. Has then a certain ending to it. Yeah. But it would be great for the decision flow to be exactly like this. So first buy secondhand, and if not, then buy new.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really, I've been closely monitoring companies like Rebuy, Refurbished, and all that stuff that make this secondhand buying even more, a little bit more professional, giving some warranty that would, like, you have absolute worry-free. Of course, they're charging a little bit of on top. Then if I were to buy the cell phone from your platform, for example, but that's also interesting part of the market, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of their offering on our platform as well. So basically they are also advertising on our site. It's an absolutely legitimate offer.
It's a nice synergy that you have.
And to be honest, like the bike that I came with today, I bought it on Kleinanzeigen, but I didn't buy it from a private person. Because if I live in Berlin, I have already gotten 4 bikes stolen, and I would really love to have an invoice for the bike, because our insurance is then paying for it. And I bought it secondhand from an SMB, from a small bike dealer in Neukölln, whom I found via Kleinanzeigen. And that's a fully legit offer to actually have also businesses who are delivering this service of sort of taking the responsibility, refurbishing things, whatever, and offering them on the second hand.
Yeah, it made me think of my son recently. We have this Lastenfahrrad, you know, it's like a cargo bike that we use with the kids. And recently, we love this thing, you know, as a family. And recently, my son realized that our battery got stolen. And it's as you said, we bought it from a dealer, so we have like some insurance that I have to follow up on. But he's like, what happened to the battery, Dad? I'm like, yeah, it got stolen, sweetheart. And he's like, oh yeah, the thieves are bad, aren't they? I said, well, we don't know. Maybe he really needed this battery. But absolutely right, and something that I personally go through right now. Super annoying. But that shows that as a platform you have diversified your portfolio. You have C2C, you have small businesses and intermediate and enterprise, even like big platforms selling on there. Could you tell us a little bit about how this is shared, like in a pie chart, how much percentage? Can you give an insight?
What kind of revenue shares?
No, not revenues. Rather than like you mentioned, I think 36 million users annually. From that, like you also have a chunk of sellers on the platform. Like can you say like we have 98% of C2C sellers, just first one person sellers or something, SMBs, and then the rest companies. So do you have some estimations for me?
So indeed, the share of commercials is very, very small. So it's in terms of share of total users, it's 1%. So it's really not very big. But of course, they tend to be very active on the platform. And we are a C2C platform. So basically, we want to always keep the focus on that. But as I said, there are a lot of areas where it just makes sense to complement the offer. And this is what we're trying to do. So we will never grow into being a commercial first platform with only a little bit of C2C offering.
I love that. You know, we recently had Martin Bardeleben from Pinterest. He's the managing director of Pinterest in Germany. What he was telling me was also quite inspiring. He says we're a wholesome social media platform. We are a positive place for our users. I've also bought stuff from Vinted, which felt like I don't know, my experience on Kleinanzeigen has been very, very positive. But talking to my wife again, she's like, hey, I had so many horrible experiences on Vinted. This incident with a baby Trage thing happened on Vinted. I think it can happen anywhere, right? So what do you do a lot to make your platform a positive place, a positive experience for both sellers and buyers alike?
Yes, of course. So you can imagine that having 36 million users in a month is a gigantic amount of basically people, and people are all different. So basically, we do have a lot of bad behavior on the site as well. So we have, ever since we have been established back in 2009, we have spent a lot of our energy, and still spending every day, on keeping the platform a safe place. So I can tell you that we did machine learning and AI, as we now call it.
You dropped the buzzword.
Long before it was cool. So when it was just, you know, colored text on black screens, and we still have a large amount of people working on that every day, and basically working on enhancing the algorithms, enhancing the security systems, so as to keep fraudsters in check.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And especially for me as a user, I really enjoy this feature when I see, okay, like the person has lots of reviews, there are some badges that they earn, like really trustworthy, reliable person to talk to, then you don't really think about it too much. And it's just, I think that's the biggest benefit for me as a user, that I don't need to really make myself crazy about like freaking out. What if this happens and that happens? It's just worry-free. You go and rely on the experience of dozens of other people that bought from this same person.
Yeah, exactly. So badges and rewards, we actually introduced 6 years ago, something like that, and that also enhanced the behavior on the platform. So people really, you know, they take care of getting into a higher badge status, not losing the badge, and stuff
it's
like that.
It's almost like I was once a Airbnb superhost. I was doing everything in my power to keep the badge, because it's like, it really actually increases your conversions dramatically. You know, because you don't have this like conversion killer, people asking themselves, hey, is this a reliable person to work with? And then in the moment you have that, it's a win-win for the platform as well, because the platform has a reliable partner on the other side that they can work with. Talking about the reliable partner, I want to also ask you about the demographics of the platform. So like, what age groups do you have? We had TikTok here in the podcast, for example. The average person on age of a person on TikTok is around 26-year-old now, which was a bit surprising to some of our viewers, I think, because people assume like TikTok was once a platform for little kids, like posting dancing videos or something like that. But it's changing. How about Kleinanzeigen?
Yeah, so Kleinanzeigen, first of all, we don't have direct data on that, because we basically are a very barrier-free platform. We don't actually expect you to tell us how old you are when you subscribe to the platform. So we actually revert to third-party data for that, but there are very robust data, for example, from Agov. And I can tell you that Kleinanzeigen is actually pretty representative of Germany. It's just a little bit younger than the average, a little bit larger households, a little bit higher income. So that's a little bit contrary from what you would expect. But in total, it's very balanced. Yeah.
I can also imagine, like, even for students, it's a super nice place to buy stuff, because then maybe you cannot afford new product, and then you just go and you buy from someone who's retired and who just doesn't need the money that much, and they can give you a nice price. It's always one of the things that when I'm selling on eBay Kleinanzeigen, I want to say, I will get to that. This is like, it's still so strong in me, you know? Yeah, when I buy something on Kleinanzeigen, sell something on Kleinanzeigen, I guess like, was letzter Preis? So some people really have an articulate message with like liebe Grüße at the end, like a nice greeting and nice ending. I take those very seriously, and I'm even willing to, as I said, I want this to be a nice platform for me as well. So I'm supporting people. If they're nice in the communication, I'm happy to go down on the price. But if they're just coming to me and saying, hey, what's the last price? I'm like, hi, who are you?
Right.
You know?
So yeah, and you can see you've experienced both, right? So that's how the world works. There are such people and such people, and if you go to a normal flea market, you'll encounter exactly the same. So there are all sorts of people. We are trying to reward good behavior. And that's how we are trying to kind of nudge people to adopt better ways. But in a way, like what you just mentioned, was letzte Preis, it's almost like a sort of a brand mark.
Yeah.
So we try to not, people are using it. It's the reality. And in marketing, at some point, we said, okay, it's not like, let's not try to hide it. Let's actually sort of do the opposite. Let's play with it, and this is what we are doing on social media, in all different channels. We are trying to actually sort of take these little flaws of the platform and actually turn them into something iconic. And
Iskra, you're a professional. You took the ball very well, because I want to make the switch to rebranding and your whole iconic brand campaign that's running. I want to get to that and ask you about your home turf, the marketing, rebranding. So tell us about what's been going on in the last 2-3 years, because you guys have been through a lot, and I'm super curious to walk through the journey with you today.
Yeah, so that was a very great experience, actually, to be honest, because you, as a marketing person, you only get to do this, rebrand one of Germany's biggest brands once in a lifetime. So that was really great. It was also very intimidating, to be honest. So what if you do it wrong? So that were all the thoughts that were going through our minds. But to start with the beginning, so 2001, eBay Kleinanzeigen, together with the whole eBay Classifieds group. So we have some peers in other countries that belong to eBay, and we were sold to a company called Adevinta. And that only made sense from a business point of view, because with time, eBay has grown into something completely different. So they have grown into a full-fledged e-commerce player, and we did not really combine anymore with their core business. Whereas now we are in a bigger company that basically has in its portfolio only classifieds, and we have a lot more know-how to share, a lot more common services to share, and so forth. So for us, this has been a great move. It also meant, of course, that at some point in time we will lose the rights to use eBay in our name. And we had 3 more years to actually rebrand to a different name. And then we did quite a lot of analysis, of course. Should we choose something completely new? Should we choose a sound alike? Should we just delete the eBay from the name? Because, to be honest, Kleinanzeigen, just for the non-German speakers that are watching this, Kleinanzeigen is actually a generic word. It means classifieds, so a little ad. And it's also not a very contemporary word. It's a little bit vintage. That's, of course, positive in our case. But it's, let's say, if you take the word eBay Kleinanzeigen, it's not the sexiest part of our name. So it was a big question, is it a positive or a negative thing to keep? And we actually discovered, so we made quite thorough research, that there is a lot of equity in Kleinanzeigen. So there were a lot of people who were already calling us Kleinanzeigen, but also this would actually allow us to retain a lot of the heritage that we had as the love brand eBay Kleinanzeigen. And then we come basically to this a little bit dangerous situation that actually users told us, okay, the eBay part of our name is also a guarantee for a certain professionalism, trust, quality, and so forth. So that's where it came, for us to have sort of expectations of a big risk, what would happen. So we'd better do this right. And unless we do it right, we might have quite a big damage to the business, right? So what usually happens in a rebranding, and we did a lot of research because there are plenty of examples also on the German market, but also abroad, of companies that had rebranded and then they lost a lot of equity, they lost vibrancy, they lost revenue and so forth. And it's always very hard to catch up again with the power of your old brand. And especially in our case, we were not rebranding from a position of weakness, so we didn't have a problem. We had this contractual need to rebrand. So it was, okay, you are at a very high point in your development as a company. How do you manage to actually avoid this dip and make it disappear fast as possible? So that were the prerequisites that we were facing back then.
So you mentioned you have a deadline of 3 years within which eBay is no longer commercially used in your advertising or everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And so it took us 2 years. So basically the preparation was 2 years, and we rebranded 2 years after basically the sale was active.
When I search for Kleinanzeigen today, or I think many people, I would even argue many people still search for eBay Kleinanzeigen even today. I do that sometimes without meaning to. Although I know that I've been following the journey, it's just a tendency to, because I've been a user for how many years, 10 years or so. Right now I see that when I search for Kleinanzeigen on Google, I still see eBay Kleinanzeigen, and then in the App Store, jetzt ohne eBay, which is super smart in my opinion, because you still use the keyword eBay somewhere in there, so it's like probably easier to find. But what's your, when do you say eventually that will completely fade off and we will no longer see that anywhere?
I would say in about 10 years.
Yeah.
No, really. So before there was Kleinanzeigen, our platform was actually called Kijiji. That was a long time ago, so before 2009. And I can tell you, 2021, when we did our first researches and where to go and stuff like that, there were still 2 million SEO searches for Kijiji. And that was already 14 years after the brand had gone. So that will take quite a long time to actually streamline, but it will be actually a lot. 10 years was actually something just thrown on there, because we are actually, what we are now experiencing is a lot faster adoption of the new brand, a lot faster basically increase of brand love numbers, of trust numbers, and so forth. So I can tell you that we are now, as I said, like 9 months after the rebrand, and what we have seen was something we didn't expect at all. So we have 15% increase in brand love. We have a 12% increase in trust numbers, which are absolutely amazing numbers and developments, to be honest. So we didn't expect that at all.
You also had to work with, back then you mentioned you were about 80 people many years ago, and then you have now, I don't know, 350.
350.
Yeah. So that's also a considerable increase. I think I can imagine one of the challenges has been to do this interplay between departments, right? How did you come to terms with that? Because I know you guys are a flexible, agile company, but that's quite, especially within the time frame that you mentioned, it's quite a huge task. Also, considering you have to migrate an entire website to a new domain name, I guess. And I don't know how that even worked out well with Google, because I know that working with e-commerce brands, it can be a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? So like migrating all these permanent link structures and all that stuff. So it's a huge project. How do you make sure that this interplay between departments works out well?
Yeah, so that's, to be honest, the key to a successful rebranding. So rebranding is not a marketing project, it's the project of the company. Yeah. And we were very lucky that our management team from the get-go was very, very much aware of that. But also, even at that time, we had always a cross-functional teams. So marketing is deeply embedded in product teams. And the rebranding team that was established from the get-go was from the beginning a cross-functional team. I was leading that together with a colleague of mine, Robert, who is a product person. And so we had a team of, yes, a lot of marketing representatives, but also developers, analysts, UX designers, and so forth. So it's very crucial to have all of these capacities in your team and not actually struggle to combine different departments to work with each other and so forth. It was us who were one cross-functional team. And only then, basically, you can achieve such a giant task if you have to actually plug in different people who actually have a completely different roadmap and different responsibilities, and you're, their fifth priority. Then it's not going to work.
And you also changed your logo and the general look and feel of the brand, which, in my opinion, is much closer to how I would perceive a sustainable brand. Like that you have more of a more green in there, and the more everywhere. You have the feeling, okay, that there. I read somewhere there, you're a company. I think it was on a job post. Mm-hmm. You are. Let me check my notes. I don't want to butcher it. Imagine a job where CO2 is more important than the CEO. So it's like, obviously you're kind of radiating this purpose to the outside world with the new branding, new logo. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was the thought process?
Yeah, actually, what was our very, very first task was to do one step back and actually determine on what this company wants to stand for, and what do we want our consumer value proposition to be across the whole business. And I told you a bit earlier that basically when I joined the company, it was more of a big bunch of like-minded people who actually believed in that. Back in 2017, so it was long before the rebranding, we had all joined forces together, so every person from the company, and we had internally made up this company vision where everyone was participating. We did not actually have an external agency, which for me, as coming from a creative agency, was that's not how you do it. And then our agile coaches, we had long conversations and with them, and I said, yes, we are the ones who best know this company and who best want can articulate what we come to work for every day. And this is how our company vision was actually coined. So we bring the joy of sustainable trade to everyone was something that came out of our colleagues, and we just then basically summed it up and made it sound nice, but that was our intrinsic motivation. So it was clear for us that we would build on this company vision and then basically make the whole business, streamline it in this direction. And then from then on, you actually need to execute in every corner of your brand and product according to this company vision, right? And this is how it came that basically we came to realize, okay, let's take this as an opportunity to modernize the brand, but also to modernize the product. And we realized, okay, let's do a redesign of the whole product, and of course a more focused marketing proposition that we bring out there. And then you have a big clash because our product colleagues were telling of the team, right? We need to do this iteratively. We need to do this in an A/B testing approach across several months, and we'll, introduce it very, very
gradually,
in a very user-centric way, so that there are no shocks in user experience and stuff like that. And the marketing part of the team was like, what are you talking about? We need the biggest possible, the big bang out there in the market, because we need them to focus all eyes on Kleinanzeigen when we tell them the big news that we have a new name and a new logo. And then we had actually quite long conversations and back and forth, and we decided to do both, right? To actually iteratively introduce things in product, but save up enough novelty to introduce on the 16th of May, where the actual name change and logo change took place.
So things were happening leading into this launch.
Exactly. This is how we introduced, this is how the rebranding was orchestrated. So we started out 6 months before with introducing small things, a white header, new font, new colors, and so forth. And then on the day of launch, we introduced things like dark mode that our users had longed for a very long time, together with the novelty of new name and logo.
Yeah, especially on a platform where you spend lots of time. You want to be comfortable, you want to make sure that it's accessible to all those people out there. I think that's me as a user. I really appreciate that when I'm thinking like. Also, when the journey is not comfortable, I don't want to spend time there. You know, that's super important.
Exactly. And, there's one piece that we couldn't introduce iteratively, and that's basically the new name and the new logo. We wanted to prepare you as a user best possible for this new change, because from one day to the other, you will find a completely different logo on your phone. And we wanted to make sure that everyone was prepared for that and knew how it looked. There is a very interesting effect that we used for that. So basically, there is something called the frequency effect, which is used in the music industry. When you hear a song for the first time, you're like, maybe, I don't know. And when you hear it for the 10th time, it's like the hit of the summer, right? So basically, the more you are exposed to something, the more you tend to like it. And that's something very biological. It's from evolutionary times set in us that 2 million years ago, if you saw something for the second time, it means the first time it didn't kill you. So you automatically got to like it more. And this is how basically your brain functions. So we said, okay, let's expose people as often as possible just to the new logo and the new name, and not load it with any other messages before the launch. So we took 2 weeks to really spread the news, really in a very dry manner. New logo, new name, Kleinanzeigen, this is how it looks. And then from the day of launch onwards, from the 16th of May, we actually started the campaign which brought our company vision to life, in that it's basically putting the brand at the intersection of affordability and sustainability, and making our users the heroes of sustainability and so forth. But that was only after the actual launch of the brand.
That sounds fascinating. I knew that the end customer needs a couple of touch points before they get familiar and start even perceiving as something that you put out there. But I never thought of it in terms of killing you. So it's a very nice new perspective. Thank you very much for this. But let me also ask you about some things that didn't go so well. We touched upon a lot of things that bear fruit over the years. But what were like the big fails that you've encountered?
Yeah, so...
or learnings,
There were a million learnings. Let me talk about two of them. So first of all, if you undertake a project like this, you should focus so much on the people. So really taking every single one of your colleagues in the company aboard, and this is what we actually had completely neglected for the first year of the rebrand, where we were concentrating on creating the new brand model, setting the foundations and stuff like that, and we were very concentrated on our work in our team and not communicating a lot within the company. And then we produced 150 slides of brand model, and then we presented them to our colleagues, and they were like, okay, so what? So basically, no one is excited about 150 slides, I can tell you that. And then we realized, okay, we have by that time 200 colleagues, and they know this brand so well. Why don't we actually use this power to get it working for this project, right? And then we started involving them. We made everyone draw a logo, a new logo.
Wow.
Then we gathered all the results, we clustered them, we
put them in the trash.
No, we didn't put them in the trash. We gave them to our rebranding agency. They took a lot of inspiration out of there. They produced 6 routes. We gave the 6 routes again to our colleagues, and you actually already have your internal poll, right, to see where this is going, and so we kept them informed, and we kept surveying them along the process. And then by the end of the second year of the project, even before we had introduced the brand, everyone was already aboard and everyone loved the brand. And on the day of launch, we were looking at our LinkedIn feeds. It looked like a green takeover. So wow. Everyone was posting about the new brand because they liked it, and they sort of wanted to tell it to the world. And this is the biggest reward that you can get. So that's, excite your colleagues, and they will excite everyone else, probably.
Ever heard about the T-shirt test in startups? I don't know where I heard it from, but you produce, as a marketing team, you produce a branded shirt, and then you give it to the company employees, and you take a look how many people at the end regularly wear this T-shirt. And there you have an understanding, okay, what's the adoption of our brand among our employees? How much have they really internalize this thing, how we convey the brand to the employees. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's quite important, something very simple. And then this shows also that they felt engaged, they felt involved, and they want to convey it to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
What's the second one? You mentioned two things.
Second one, you mentioned SEO, and that was a super huge challenge, to be honest. So we separated it a little bit from the launch. So basically we did the actual domain migration 2 weeks before that, just to split.
It used to be kleinanzeigen.ebay.de, right?
No, it was ebay-kleinanzeigen.de.
Okay.
And now it's kleinanzeigen.de.
Yeah.
Maybe two major things. So 1 year before the actual rebranding and the actual domain migration, we did quite a big cleanup of our sitemaps in order to prepare for the actual rebrand. And that actually boosted our visibility quite strongly. So basically we were already a little bit higher than before, which is great. And then there was a lot of preparation. So basically the new site was available, I think 3-4 months before the actual domain migration. All the teams could actually test everything, if everything is interlinked and so forth. So we were actually pretty confident that we are doing the right thing. And then on the 2nd of May, we put 164 million pages on the market that Google had never seen before. So no one had done this before. This is how big our site is. Just no one had done this before, and like not even Google knew what would happen. And so.
Are you thinking in Germany? Like
in Germany?
Yeah.
We are a very big platform, and then we pushed the button, and then nothing happened, and the bot was not crawling. Not on day 1, not on day 2. We were emailing
your
all of our
online
contacts.
marketing person on Google Search Console sweating like.
Our SEO person was fully checking, okay, is everything plugged in? Our contacts at Google were checking it and telling us, it's all good, don't worry about it. And that's not really possible because your advertising colleagues are actually extremely alarmed, and they are making projections. Oh, okay, if this is not going to kick in, we need to write off this and this amount of revenue, and you're like, okay, this is really not good now. And then I think it was almost 2 weeks after the switch that actually the bot started crawling and the J-curve kicked in. And then everything was fine, So basically, we had a really good recovery, and we got back in just a couple of months. We got back to number 6 most visible brand in Germany, which is really amazing. So everything worked out really well. But these first 2 weeks were quite strenuous, to be honest. And there, you need to sometimes also trust in what you did. And just really keep calm and drink some tea and wait.
Yeah, absolutely. We always love to close the podcast with like some concrete tips or lessons for SMBs, maybe key takeaways for smaller guys that are willing to do something in sustainable commerce. We touched upon sustainability throughout the conversation. So I want to go back to that topic and ask you, do you have concrete recommendations for any e-commerce business looking to operate in sustainable commerce based on all the learnings you have running a sustainable brand marketplace? Maybe 3 key takeaways for them.
Yeah, so it's very important to start at home. So to look at your business, at your company, and really look whether you're doing everything right in the first place. This is what we did years ago. So basically 2017 we started and really had a look into are we actually having the smallest possible footprint already? What energy are the servers running on? What is the footprint of our offices? What can we optimize there? And we really looked into every corner of our business in order to, first of all, reduce our own footprint. Then, of course, you need to measure it, and you need to also measure the development. And what you cannot reduce, you at best have to compensate. Of course, that's really only the second best way to go. But this is where you need to start first to actually sort of set up what your or be a good example, and especially with the Green Claims Act that is coming along our way. This will be even more important, because before starting communicating anything to the public, you need to make sure you have done your homework, and also the claims that you are making are claims that a third party has confirmed. This is what basically the new regulation is saying, before you can actually communicate anything.
Yeah.
So this is how
that
to avoid
impartial.
Exactly, greenwashing,
yeah.
And so forth, because that's the worst thing you can do. But other than that, I think we need more companies to get into this space, more companies to make actually green claims, so as to have more of the discourse on the market. And this is how you make people actually put it on their agenda, think about it, think about what they can do in their daily lives to go in that direction. But apart from that, I think that this is the way to go for every business. So if you have a look in the larger macroeconomic developments, this is where the money goes. And it's not only a nice to have for companies. You have investment funds restructuring their investment focus onto more sustainable businesses. You have states, you have the European Union that has put 200 billion, 200, how do you call it, billion
yeah,
on the market. Going behind green businesses. So basically, this is where the investments will go. So you'd better set yourself up for the future in taking such a direction.
In my opinion, also, I once made a presentation in at the expo, also on the topic of sustainability. I think, in my opinion, for the smaller guys, they have the biggest advantage of building everything from the ground up on sustainable principles. I think that's also where you make a difference, because there's a bunch of people since years already that are constantly searching for an alternative, right? So through this search, there's a huge opportunity that emerges for those guys that have a storytelling around this topic, but also live and breathe, which is why I was looking at your helmet at the beginning. Live and breathe these principles, because when you look at big brands like Zara, for example, I've also given this example a couple of times, there's not enough biological or like organic cotton in the world to supply that demand. They have, it's just a fact, they have sustainable collections and everything, but the notion of fast fashion or fast food or these things, it's intrinsically counterproductive to the idea of being sustainable, you know, in my opinion at least. Can you share your opinion on that one?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously consuming less is the best way to go, right? Not buying anything, so that kind of contradicts fast fashion. But I am, on the contrary, also not a fan of ideas. So I do see problems in ideas like degrowth, because I don't think that our society is built on such a notion. But I think there is not a contradiction between producing less new things and having a growing economy. So these can actually go hand in hand. So imagine like Zara apart, but if you buy an expensive t-shirt, if you buy whatever, an Armed Angels t-shirt or a Boss t-shirt, whatever, it will last longer. And yes, I might not want to wear it 10 years, but I can sell it to someone else after a year and buy another t-shirt also from this, you know, flow. And this is how basically one
circular
t-shirt
economy
sold 10 times is delivering 10 times on your GDP. So it doesn't mean that basically you will have less revenue from a t-shirt. You will just actually have less items produce a higher revenue, and
kind
that's
of shifting.
possible. Yeah, it's shifting. It's shifting basically the on a macroeconomic level, but actually, it is possible to combine sustainability with a growing economy.
I think that's a perfect way to end this conversation. Iskra, thank you so much for this conversation. I've learned a lot from your insights, and especially talking in an honest way about the things that went wrong, the things that worked out well. I think this will be an inspiration to many viewers and listeners. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the E-commerce Germany News Podcast. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and follow us on our channels. Feel free to also recommend this podcast to your contacts and friends that may want to know more about e-commerce, digital marketing, and success stories. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and see you on the next episode.